Welcome to my snail tutorial. I've been asked so many times to show people how to make it, so here's our tutorial for it. It's perfect cake topper size and I'm making it out of Saracino modelling paste. We're going to make it all nice and slimy too, so keep watching and you'll see how. These are the tools you're going to need and I'll put these in the list below. So let's get started. We're going to knead up the paste really well. You can see me stretching it to make it more pliable because you don't want to make it hot and sticky. And I'm kneading in some dark brown paste colour, but you can use any brown really. So see which brown works for you. I use the Sugarflair dark brown for this one. So I've rolled the snail's body into a sausage and I've pressed on with a little bit of non-slip matting to get the texture. Now I'm using the broad end of the Dresden tool to create the sole at the bottom of the snail because this is called the snail's foot. Just pinching it in with my fingers there a little bit. I've popped it onto my cornflour puff here just to get a little bit of shape in. It dries really quickly so you don't have to wait long. Use a cocktail stick to put the holes in for the two tentacles. The upper tentacles are bigger. There you go. So now we're going to make the actual shell to go on the back of the snail. Make this longer and thinner than you think you need it to be because it just makes a much more interesting shell when you've curled it up. So I'm just rolling it up on top of itself and the coil sits on one side rather than underneath. Cut the excess away. And this is now me forming the mantle, which is at the front of the shell. So you're shaping it with your fingers first. I also have made a little bit of a hollow for the body. Check the size, make sure it fits. And I'm using the Dresden here to make the hollow a little bit stronger. There you go. You can see that I've transferred it onto sandwich bags now because it's not so sticky anymore. I'm using the Dresden to emphasize the shape of the mantle. Did you know in reality a snail's got a spiral shaped bit inside his shell and that's where all the internal organs like the heart are kept? Which I didn't know until today. Just make sure it's nice and fixed on. So now I've got my taper point, which is a silicone tool by Cerart, and I'm marking in indentations on the shell just to make it a little bit more depth really, because you don't want it too flat, do you? And you can go over this as much as you like. So once you've done one side, I would then go over and do the other side. I also take the shells on and off to make sure that I can get to everything. There we go, we sped that up a little bit for you because it's a little bit slow to watch otherwise. The Saracino's not sticky at the moment either, so if it is sticky, leave it rest a little bit longer. There we go, smooth it in a bit more. If it needs a little bit of edible glue to fix on, you can do that. I didn't need to because my hand was warm. So now we're going to make the little tentacles. So two larger ones for the eye stalks, which are the top ones. So you can trim that down. Once you know how big they need to be, you can grab a smaller piece of paste and you know how much you need. So two large and two small. And you can pop those in the fridge or the freezer for a little while to let them cool down. So now we're going to paint. I'm using Autumn Leaf and Dark Brown by Sugarflair straight from the pot first, and I've put streaks onto the shell. And I want those quite strong streaks because then when we add a liquid later on, it'll blend it all in. Only onto the shell for this bit. So that's quite a small brush. So this now I'm adding some Nielsen massey lemon extract. You could also use vodka. It's just to dilute the paint down. I've got a wider brush now as well. So I touch my brush into a little bit of colour And you see me moving into different sections of the palette so that I can have different strengths of colour. So keep dipping it into your alcohol and dipping it into your colours, and that dilutes it down. So I'm going over the shell a little bit. The body, you go very runny. So you can see I've left the shell for now. But the body, yeah, we just want the body to look nice and diluted, and all of the colour will blend into the body. So if you made all those indentations, the colour will run into them, which is exactly what you want. If you want the colour stronger, add more of the paste colour to the alcohol. If you want it weaker, you can even brush it straight over with the alcohol, which I'll show you later, because you can always change your mind. So it's nice and easy this, you don't have to think too hard. A little bit of autumn leaf, a little bit of dark brown, and it changes the colour. Then I've made it, as you can see, I've made it darker because I want it to stain it a little bit more. Then wipe your brush and go back into just the alcohol, and where I wipe it away with my damp brush, it sits into the indentations in the snail's body. If it's got a bit flat because you may have pressed too hard at one point, you can always press back in with the non-slip mat in. But now it's all stuck in the grooves, look, so you can see the little darker colour going in. So I'm going over the actual shell itself now, and the straight colours that I used earlier, those stripes, they're actually stuck really well. So when I paint over them, you can still see them. Just makes the shell look a bit more interesting. Still using just dark brown and autumn leaf, no other colours. If you painted dark brown with a bit of vodka onto a board, you'll see the greens, the blues, this lovely mix of colours. So I'm adding some darker stripes in if I feel it needs it a bit stronger. And even just little patches, it doesn't have to be a solid colour or just stripes. I like it to look a little bit random. You can alternate between which brush you like using as well. At the moment I enjoy using the flat brush because I can use either the flat side or the end. But then we change to this little detail brush just to get in the coil. So you can see I'm just catching in just to put some shadow in, just with the dark brown now. There we go. I think that's plenty of colour on him for now. I've pushed the tentacles into place, so the little tiny bit of edible glue, and now I'm just using some of the leftover dark brown mixed with the vodka or the Nielsen massey lemon extract, and I'm basically just going over the tentacles now. Leave the ends a little bit darker, especially on the top two tentacles because that's where the eye is. The bottom ones are for smelling and feeling, but they're ever so slightly paler. And then once you've gone over the tentacles, you can clean away with vodka any that got onto the head of the snail, because you don't want it to be too dark. You can see it's a bit patchy here, but then you can go along and clean it up. And if you do like I just did and you knock the tentacle, you can always use a pair of tweezers or your finger just to pop it back into place. This is just basically because we just did it in the one day. I'm spraying the snail now with some PME spray glaze. I actually gave it 3 coats. This is the Saracino Cake gel. I just wanted to give it a little bit of slime. All snails have got slime. There we go. And if you wipe your finger along the trail at the end, it gives it a more realistic effect. And there he is. Well, I really hope you enjoyed it. It's been a long time coming, so I'm really glad to see him now. If you liked the video, please click like, and we'd love you to subscribe because we're going to be releasing more tutorials very shortly. So thank you so much for watching, and see you again.